Her 7-year-old son had collapsed during gym class, and by the time she reached the hospital, he was unconscious, hooked to machines. Doctors gave her a chilling diagnosis: end-stage kidney failure. Her little boy was dying. And the only potential match? The one man she swore never to speak to again, Dax Whitmore, tech billionaire, media darling, and the father of her child, a man who once whispered to another woman that she was just a distraction. She never told him he had a son, but now she had no choice. So she called, and when he answered, everything changed. Before we dive into this emotional journey, please do me just a simple favor. Hit that like button. Your support helps YouTube push this story to more viewers just as amazing as you are. Also, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe before we proceed deep into this perfectly crafted story written just for you. Tap on the subscribe button below. We are all waiting on you to be part of this family. Now, let's begin. The sun filtered softly through the linen curtains of the downtown Los Angeles loft, where Camila Rios adjusted a vase of hydrangeas on the centerpiece table of her design studio. Her firm, Camila & Company Interiors, was finally taking off. Clients adored her modern yet warm aesthetic, and that morning's pitch had ended in applause. She should have felt victorious, but behind the confident heels, the color swatches, and the polished smile was a woman running on fumes. Raising Jace alone for 7 years hadn't been easy. Every cent mattered. Every decision, school, babysitters, bills, rested on her shoulders. Still, Camila made it work. Their mornings were a blur of dinosaur-themed lunchboxes, mismatched socks, and Jace refusing to comb his curls. Their nights? Bedtime stories, popcorn, and toothy giggles as he insisted T-Rex was the greatest predator of all time. He was her light, her reason, her everything. As she stepped into her office, her assistant grinned. Another win, Camila. That's 3 contracts this month. She smiled, tucking her phone into her blazer. We're just getting started. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen and froze. Fairgrove Elementary. Her heart skipped, then plummeted. With trembling fingers she answered. Hello? Ms. Rios? The voice was rushed. A woman. This is Nurse Beasley. Jace collapsed during PE. An ambulance is en route to St. Vincent's Pediatric. The vase shattered at her feet. Her vision blurred. I'm on my way, she whispered, grabbing her bag, kicking off her heels. She didn't remember taking the elevator or racing down the street, just the sound of her own heartbeat in her ears. And one thought playing on repeat. Please let my baby be okay. Camila gripped the steering wheel with white-knuckled panic, weaving through morning traffic like a woman possessed. Horns blared, tires screeched, but she barely noticed. Her pulse drowned out the world. Jace. Her boy. Her miracle. He was just at breakfast, arguing about syrup versus jelly. He wore his blue hoodie, the one with the dinosaur tail on the back, and kissed her cheek before skipping to the school bus. Now he was in an ambulance. The ER sliding doors hissed open as she burst inside, breath ragged. My son, Jace Rios, 7 years old. They just brought him in. A nurse pointed down the hall. Room 12. He's being assessed. Camila sprinted barefoot across cold tile, dodging gurneys and nurses. Her blouse clung to her skin. She nearly crashed into the doorframe. Inside, machines beeped. Wires, monitors. Her little boy lay pale and limp, eyes closed, a soft oxygen mask over his face. Jace, she choked out, collapsing beside the bed. Mommy's here, baby. I'm here. His curls were damp. His chest rose and fell too shallowly. A doctor entered, late 30s, focused, calm under pressure. Ms. Rios? I'm Dr. Collins. What's wrong with him? She begged. Please, just tell me. We're running tests, but initial labs show his kidneys aren't functioning properly. He's in acute distress. There may be an underlying cause, possibly genetic. No, she whispered. That can't be right. He's healthy. He was just... I know this is difficult, he said gently. We're doing everything we can. Camila blinked away tears as they drew more blood. Jace didn't even stir. She reached for his hand. It felt cold, and her world, the one she'd fought so hard to build, suddenly didn't matter anymore. The hours dragged like centuries. Camila paced the hallway outside Jace's room, her blazer long discarded, hair matted from sweat and panic. Nurses and doctors moved around her like a blur. She tried to ask questions. What's happening? Can I see him? But every answer was a variation of, we're still evaluating. Inside, she caught glimpses of her boy, his tiny frame dwarfed by machines, IVs taped to his arms, monitors glowing with unreadable data. Finally, Dr. Collins motioned for her to follow him. She trailed behind, legs stiff, stomach in knots. They entered a consultation room. Quiet, sterile, too calm. He spoke carefully. Camilla, your son's kidneys are in severe failure. His creatinine and bun levels are dangerously high. He's not producing urine, which is a red flag. She blinked, trying to understand. What does that mean? It means his kidneys are shutting down. Based on the labs, this didn't happen overnight. It's likely chronic, genetic, something dormant until now. No one in my family. Some mutations skip generations or present unpredictably. We won't know more until we do a full genetic workup. Camila sat down slowly, the weight of his words pressing her into the seat. What happens next? She whispered. We've started dialysis to stabilize him, but it's a temporary solution. Jace is in end-stage renal failure. He needs a kidney transplant. Her hands clenched the chair's edge. How soon? Soon, he said. Ideally within weeks. Time isn't on our side. Her heart twisted. Can I donate? You were tested as part of standard protocol. Unfortunately, you're not a match. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Then who? Dr. Collins looked at her gently. Biological parents have the highest likelihood of compatibility. We'll need to contact his father. She froze. The name she hadn't spoken aloud in nearly 8 years flared in her mind. Dax Whitmore. Her past. Her mistake. Her heartbreak. And, unfortunately, her son's best hope. Camila sat in the darkened hospital chapel, hands clasped tightly in her lap, eyes unfocused. The stained glass glimmered with morning light, casting fragmented color across the polished floor. But she felt none of it. Jace was asleep in the pediatric ICU, sedated, his little body tethered to machines keeping him stable. Stable, for now. But not saved. Not yet. The words echoed in her mind. He needs a transplant. A living donor is the best chance. Her chance had already been ruled out, which left one other person. She hadn't said his name in years, had trained herself not to think about him, not to remember the laughter, the hotel balconies in Paris, the spontaneous getaways, or the devastating night that ended it all. But her son needed a kidney. And Dax Whitmore, the billionaire she once loved, was the father he never knew. Her fingers hovered over her phone. The contact was still there, untouched since the last time she'd screamed his name into the void and sworn never to speak it again. Dax Whitmore, the man who broke her heart with a single sentence. She'd gone to surprise him that night in Manhattan. A spontaneous flight, a giddy heart, a keycard he didn't know she still had. She arrived to find him in his penthouse. With another woman. She stood frozen behind the wall as he whispered 5 words into the woman's ear, words that shredded her. She was just a distraction. Camila had turned and walked out without a sound, never gave him a chance to explain. 2 weeks later, she found out she was pregnant, and she stayed silent. Now she had to break that silence. She pressed the call button. Her heart thudded. It rang, once, twice, then, hello? The voice was unmistakable. Calm, confident, distant. She nearly hung up. Dax, she said, forcing the name out. It's Camila. Silence. Camila? She inhaled sharply. I wouldn't be calling unless I had no choice. A beat. Then, what's going on? You have a son, she said. He's 7. His name is Jace, and he's dying. Another silence, this one deeper. He didn't ask for proof. Didn't challenge her. I'm getting on my jet, he said. Text me the hospital. The line went dead. Camila didn't sleep that night, not even when the nurses dimmed the lights and silence settled over the hospital floor like a heavy blanket. Instead, she sat beside Jace's bed, holding his hand and thinking about the man who was already on his way. Dax Whitmore, the first man to truly consume her, the last man to ever touch her like that. Their affair wasn't built on candlelit dinners or polite conversation. It had been raw, hungry, reckless. He was powerful, commanding, yet behind closed doors with her, there had been gentleness too. She remembered their first time. It had rained for hours in New York, and he'd canceled his meetings to stay in. She showed up in a soaked blouse, laughing. He stared at her like she was the only woman he'd ever seen. Then, without a word, he pinned her against the apartment wall, fingers sliding into her wet hair. The kiss had been searing, tongues tangling, breath hitching, clothes ripped with frantic urgency. He lifted her, carried her to the bed, and made her cry out his name again and again. She remembered his mouth, hot and unrelenting on her thighs. The way he took his time, making her unravel, then pulling her back together with every stroke of his tongue, every growl against her skin. He worshipped her body like it was art, like he'd built it with his own hands. And she'd fallen, completely. Even now, her skin tingled at the memory of his voice in her ear. "You drive me crazy, Camila. I don't want anyone else." But then came the night that wrecked it all, his betrayal, or so she believed. Now, that same man was coming to face the child he never knew. And no matter how deeply he'd once buried himself inside her, emotionally and physically, Camila knew one thing: she had to guard her heart. Because part of it still remembered exactly how it felt to belong to him. The next morning came in fragments, nurses checking vitals, the beep of machines, the sterile scent of antiseptic. Camila sat quietly by Jace's bedside, trying to soothe his forehead with a damp cloth. He stirred slightly, still groggy from the sedation. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. She already knew who it was. Camila stepped into the hallway, heart drumming like a war drum. She answered. "Camila," he said, his voice smooth and unmistakably firm. "I'm 20 minutes out. Cedars-Sinai, right?" "St. Vincent's," she corrected, gripping the phone tighter. He exhaled sharply. "I'm coming straight there." A pause. Then softer. "How is he?" "He's stable, for now. But he needs that transplant. Fast." She could hear it in his breathing. Tight, controlled, but tinged with panic. "I still can't believe you never told me," he said, voice low. "I didn't plan for any of this, Dax." "You should have told me," he snapped. "I had a right to know." Camila bristled. "And what would you have done, Dax?" "I heard you, that night, whispering to Vanessa that I was just a distraction." "Wait, what?" His voice sharpened. "I never said that. I told her losing you would destroy me. She showed up uninvited. I wasn't even expecting her." Her throat tightened. "I heard what I heard." "You heard one sentence. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. You were with her, Dax." "No, Camila," he said, almost growling. "She ambushed me. I told her we were over, that I'd already found the woman I wanted. She said nothing. I searched for you," he added. "You changed numbers, addresses, everything. You disappeared. I was pregnant, alone, and humiliated. You should have told me I had a son," he said, voice cracking. "I would have dropped everything." Silence stretched between them, years of unresolved pain and aching memories pressing into the space. Then he exhaled. "I'm not coming as the CEO, or the man you think I became. I'm coming as a father, and I'm not leaving until I've done right by him." Camila swallowed hard. "Good," she said quietly, "because he needs you, whether I like it or not. Hello, beautiful family, if you are still here, if you are still with me. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, because what is about to happen now will put you at the edge of your sit." Dax stood by the jet's window, arms crossed, jaw tight. The Gulf Stream hummed beneath him, slicing through clouds at 40,000 feet, but his mind was grounded, stuck in a hospital room with a boy he'd never met. A boy who carried his blood. A boy who was dying. He stared out at the sky, eyes narrowing as memories pressed in. Camila. Her laughter after midnight. That fiery temper. The way she challenged him in every conversation, every glance. She never fawned over his money, never softened her edges to fit his world. That's what made her unforgettable. And now, she'd been raising his son without him. He clenched his fists. The thought tore at something deep. He replayed their last night over and over during the flight. Vanessa had shown up unannounced. He'd ended things with her months prior, but she had connections, and getting past security wasn't hard. She walked in, crying, desperate to win him back. "I miss us," she'd whispered. "You miss being seen," he replied coldly. Then he saw Camila's bag on the couch. She must have been in the hallway just out of sight, and he knew exactly when she'd left. Right before he said the most important part, "I've already moved on, and if I lose her, that would be my greatest mistake." But she never heard that part. She disappeared. No calls, no trace. Just Gone. And now he understood why. His gut twisted with guilt. "Mr. Whitmore," the pilot's voice crackled through the intercom. "We'll be landing in Los Angeles in 15 minutes. He nodded. As the ground rose beneath them, Dax straightened his tie. The charcoal suit felt like armor, but inside he was anything but invincible. He'd faced boardrooms full of billionaires, but nothing prepared him for what waited on the other side of this runway: a sick child, a woman he once adored, and a chance he couldn't afford to waste. The sliding doors parted with a low whoosh as Dax stepped into St. Vincent's pediatric wing. The atmosphere was quiet but tense. Low murmurs, soft footsteps, machines humming behind doors. Nurses glanced up from their stations, their eyes trailing over the sharply dressed man who moved like he owned every inch of space. And yet, he didn't feel powerful at all. He was looking for a little boy he didn't know, a boy with his blood. His shoes echoed down the corridor as he approached the nurse's desk. "I'm looking for Jace Rios," he said, voice steady but low. "I was told he's in room 12. The nurse blinked, then nodded slowly. "He's in observation. Only family is allowed." Dax didn't blink. "I am family." Another nurse approached, recognizing his name from Camila's emergency contact update. "Ms. Rios is inside. I'll let her know you're here." She disappeared through the doors. Dax exhaled, adjusted his sleeves, and tried to slow the rush of adrenaline. Then Camila emerged. Her eyes met his instantly. Her hair was pulled into a messy bun. No makeup. Worry written across every line of her face. But she was still breathtaking. They stood there for a beat too long. Then, "He's asleep," she said softly. "But you can come in." Dax followed her through the door and stopped in his tracks. The boy on the bed had his curls, his chin, even his stubborn little scowl as he shifted in his sleep. It hit Dax like a punch to the chest. This was real. This was his son. He walked to the bedside slowly, careful not to make a sound. His knees buckled slightly as he crouched beside the bed. He reached out, hand hovering just above the boy's. "Jace," he whispered, voice thick. "I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere." Camila turned away, arms folded tight across her chest. But she heard him, and something deep inside her cracked. As soon as they stepped into the empty family lounge down the hall, the tension snapped. "You kept my son from me," Dax hissed, voice sharp, low enough to avoid attention, but hot with fury. Camila turned to face him, eyes dark. "And you discarded me like I meant nothing." "I didn't know you were pregnant," he said, teeth clenched. "You think I would have walked away if I knew?" She laughed bitterly. "I think you made your choice the night I heard you whispering sweet nothings to Vanessa in your penthouse." His face twisted. "That's what this is about. You don't get to act surprised." "I told her I was done with her," he shot back. "I told her I'd found someone who mattered." "I heard she was just a distraction," Camila said, each word laced with venom. "I was talking about her. You expect me to believe that?" He stepped closer. "Yes, because it's the truth. I didn't even know you were there that night. You ghosted me, changed your number, moved across the country." Camila's breath hitched. "I didn't run," she said, softer now. "I was humiliated. I was pregnant. And I didn't want a damn thing from you." "Then why call now?" Her eyes flashed. "Because Jace needs you. That's it. Don't confuse this with something else." Dax's gaze dropped to the floor. His hands were fists at his side, shaking slightly. "You think I haven't regretted that night every day?" he asked, voice strained. "You were the only woman who ever saw me. Not my money, not the headlines, just me. And I lost you." Camila looked away. "I never stopped wondering what could have been," he added. She shook her head. "Don't do this." He didn't respond. They stood in silence, years of pain pushing at the edges of the room. Then a nurse appeared in the doorway. "He's waking up." Without another word, they rushed back down the hall, together but still worlds apart. Jace's eyelids fluttered open as the soft beeping of the heart monitor kept rhythm beside him. Camila leaned in instantly, brushing back his curls. "Hey, baby, Mommy's here." He blinked slowly, lips dry. "Water," he rasped. She grabbed the straw cup the nurse had left and held it to his mouth. He took a small sip. "Good job," she whispered, tears already threatening again. Then she felt it, another presence beside them. Dax stood just behind her, his gaze fixed on the boy in the bed. Jace's eyes traveled to the tall man beside his mom. He squinted. "Who's that?" Camila hesitated for a heartbeat. Then, her voice quiet and sure, she said, "That's your daddy, baby." Jace blinked again, his voice barely above a whisper. "I have a dad?" Dax stepped forward, slowly, cautiously. "You do. And I'm him. I'm so sorry it took me this long to find you." Jace stared, eyes wide. "You look like me," he murmured. That made Dax smile, eyes misting. "Yeah, you've got my chin, but your mom's eyes. Lucky you." Camila's heart clenched. Jace studied him a little longer, then whispered, "Are you staying?" Dax knelt beside the bed, voice thick with emotion. "I'm not going anywhere, Jace. I promise you that." There was a pause. Then Jace reached out with his tiny hand, placing it gently over Dax's. Camila turned away, swallowing hard. Dax looked up at her, their eyes meeting. It was the kind of look that said everything neither of them could speak aloud in front of their son. Jace sighed, eyes already starting to close again, the meds taking hold. "Cool. I have a dad." Dax let out a shaky breath and kissed the back of his son's hand. Camila quietly stepped out of the room, because for the first time, her little boy wasn't alone. The next morning began with fluorescent lights and hushed voices in the lab. Dax sat in the blood draw chair, sleeves rolled up, jaw tight. A nurse wrapped a tourniquet around his bicep and prepped the syringe. He didn't flinch. His eyes remained focused on the hallway just outside the lab, where Camila stood with her arms crossed, watching. "Do you get queasy with needles?" the nurse asked. "No," he said flatly. "Just make it fast. I need results." Camila stepped in as the needle went in, her voice firm. "You can't rush this, Dax. They have to test for blood type, antigen match, tissue compatibility. I read the report 3 times already," he said without looking at her. "I'm not here to waste time." She hesitated, then softened. "I know, it's a lot, for everyone." He glanced at her then. "I didn't sleep last night. I kept wondering how many of his milestones I missed. First steps, first words. You missed everything," she said, honest, but not cruel. He nodded. "And I'll never forgive myself for that." The nurse finished, labeling the samples carefully before stepping out. Camila moved toward him, slower now. "I didn't want you to come back out of guilt. I didn't." He looked up. "I came because he's mine. Because I want to do right by him, and by you." Her breath caught slightly. The door opened, and Dr. Collins stepped in with a clipboard. "We'll have the full HLA typing back in a few hours. Preliminary blood work is promising." Dax stood. "Call me the moment it's confirmed. I'm not leaving this hospital until I know." Camila watched him leave the room, his shoulders squared, his pace steady. But there was something new in his walk, a man carrying the weight of 7 lost years and 1 fragile hope. Camila sat beside Jace's bed, her fingers gently stroking his hair as he dozed. The machines buzzed softly, steady now. Stable, but not forever. She didn't hear the door open. Only when a warm breath hit her shoulder did she glance up. Dax stood there, eyes sharp. "They confirmed it," he said. Her heart skipped. "You're a match?" "Perfect match," he replied, voice low. "I signed the release forms. They're booking the OR for Monday morning." Camila blinked rapidly. "That's only 3 days away. The sooner the better, right?" She rose slowly, swallowing the knot in her throat. "Dax, thank you. I'm not doing this for thanks," he said. "I'm doing it because I owe him everything I never gave." She stared at him, studying the man he'd become. Still controlled, still intense. But something softer peeked through the cracks now. "You really didn't know, did you?" she asked. He shook his head. "I would have moved mountains to be there. For both of you." Her chest tightened. "And now you're literally giving him part of yourself." He gave a small smile. "It's not enough. But it's a start." They stood in silence for a moment, just watching Jace breathe. "I told him today," she said, "that he'd have a piece of his daddy inside him forever." Dax's expression shifted. Grief, pride, guilt all tangled together. "I hate that he had to meet me this way," he murmured. "Hooked to machines, weak. You should have seen him last month," Camila said softly. He beat 3 fifth-graders at chess during lunch break. A quiet laugh escaped him. "Smart like you, then." She glanced up. "And stubborn like you." Their eyes locked. There was something thick between them, unspoken, unresolved. But for now they focused on the only thing that mattered, saving their son. The hallway was dim, washed in pale blue light from wall fixtures meant to calm nerves that never really settled. Camila leaned against the window ledge just outside the ICU, sipping lukewarm coffee from a paper cup. Her heels were off. Her shoulders sagged. Her blouse was wrinkled from hours of sitting, standing, pacing. She hadn't intended to wait for him, but somehow her feet wouldn't move. Dax appeared around the corner, hands in his pockets, suit jacket slung over his shoulder. He looked tired, but more grounded than she'd ever seen him. "You should be asleep," he said softly, stopping a few feet from her. She shrugged. "So should you." He leaned beside her, looking out the same window. Hospitals aren't built for rest. Silence, the kind that held more weight than words. Then, "I missed everything," he said. His first laugh, his first word, his first Halloween. "I can't get those back." Camila's voice was quiet. "He was a pirate last year, said he wanted to sail to New York and steal a spaceship." Dax smiled faintly. "Ambitious. He gets that from you." He turned to her. "You were always the smartest woman I knew. Fierce, complicated, honest to a fault." "You mean difficult," she muttered. "No," he said. "I mean unforgettable." She looked away, heart thudding. "I thought I could forget you," he continued. "Buried myself in work, deals, headlines, but nothing erased you." I'd close my eyes and still see her face. Her hand tightened on the coffee cup. "You broke me," she whispered, "and I had to hold it together for someone else." "I know," he said, "and I'll never forgive myself for what you went through alone." The silence returned, not cold this time, just heavy with memory. "I don't know what happens after the surgery," he said, "but I want to be here, not just for Jace, but for you too." She swallowed, throat tight. "I don't know if I can let you in again," she replied. "It nearly destroyed me the first time." "I don't expect forgiveness overnight," he said gently, "but I'll earn it if you let me try." She didn't answer, but when she turned to leave, his hand brushed her wrist. And this time, she didn't pull away. The hospital's family suite was quiet, dimly lit by a single floor lamp. Camila stood near the small window, arms folded across her chest. She hadn't planned to stay the night, but sleep felt impossible elsewhere. Behind her, the door clicked shut. She didn't need to turn around. She already felt him. His energy always arrived before his voice. Dax set down a paper bag from the hospital cafe. "I brought the worst sandwich known to man, but it's edible." She glanced at him over her shoulder. "I've had enough bland food to last a lifetime." He smiled, but it faded fast. Neither of them moved. Then she said it, quiet but sharp. "You can't just walk back into my life and expect everything to realign." "I don't," he said. "But you walked into mine when you called." Her jaw tightened. "Because I had to." "I know." He stepped closer. "But that call, it changed everything for me. One second I'm in a meeting about funding a satellite, and the next I learn I have a son, that I missed 7 birthdays, 7 Christmases." She didn't respond. He took another step. "I came here thinking I could fix everything with action. Donate a kidney, be the hero. And now?" she asked. "I realize that won't erase what happened, but it doesn't mean I don't want to try. For Jace, and for us, if there's still an us to rebuild." Camila stared at him. Her chest rose and fell with shallow breaths. "Don't say things you don't mean," she whispered. His eyes darkened. "I've never meant anything more." In 2 strides, he was in front of her. Camila's lips parted, a protest on the tip of her tongue. But it died as he cupped her face. His thumb grazed her cheekbone. His eyes searched hers. Then slowly, he kissed her. It was tentative at first, soft, testing. But she kissed him back. And then it wasn't soft. It was raw, deep, years of anger, grief, longing, all colliding. His hand slid to her waist, gripping her like he was afraid she'd vanish again. Her fingers tugged at his shirt, untucking it, pressing against the warmth of his back. He backed her toward the bed, lips never leaving hers. When the back of her knees hit the mattress, she sank, pulling him down with her. Clothes peeled away piece by piece. His mouth moved down her neck, chest, stomach, memorizing every inch. She arched into him, gasping, fingers tangled in his hair. And when he finally entered her, it wasn't rushed. It was slow, deep, every thrust a promise, every moan an echo of something old rediscovered. They moved together like they'd never been apart, And when it was over and she lay against his chest, breath slowing, he whispered, "This changes everything." Camila didn't answer, but she didn't let go either. The silence afterward was unlike any they'd shared before. Camila lay with her head on Dax's chest, their legs tangled beneath the hospital suite's scratchy sheets. His hand drifted lazily along her spine, drawing invisible lines she couldn't quite decipher. She should have moved, said something, pulled away. But she stayed. "I thought I'd buried all of this," she said finally, her voice hushed. "The way you made me feel, the way you looked at me like I was more than just a pretty face." "You were never just anything," Dax murmured. She pulled the sheet up to her chest, rolling onto her side to face him. "Then why didn't you fight for me?" "I tried," he said. "When I realized you were gone, I sent people to your apartment, called every number I had. I even showed up at your old firm in Boston." "I had already left," she whispered. "I didn't want to be found." "I know," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "But that didn't stop me from looking." Camila's eyes searched his. "You think this changes things?" He sat up, resting on one elbow. "Doesn't it?" "Sex is easy," she said flatly. "Feelings are not." He smirked. "That didn't feel easy. That felt like history catching up to us." She didn't smile back. "I don't want Jace confused," she added. "He just met you. He doesn't need to see me falling apart again if this is temporary." Dax's expression sobered. "Camila, I'm not here to pass through. I'm here because I never stopped loving you. I buried it. I tried to drown it in ambition. But you," he reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "You're the only thing that's ever made sense." She turned her face away, tears stinging. "You say that now. But what about 6 months from now? A year? When the newness wears off and reality hits?" "I'm not asking you to promise me forever," he said. "I'm asking for the chance to prove I've changed." Her eyes flicked back to his. "And what if I'm too scared to risk it again?" "Then I'll wait," he whispered. "As long as it takes." Silence fell again, but it was different this time. Not empty, not strained, just filled with the weight of possibilities. Camila leaned her forehead against his. "I want to believe you," she whispered. "Then start there," he said, kissing her gently. "Just believe." And for the first time in years, she didn't feel alone in the dark. Hey, dear family, if you are still here with me on this beautiful story, please hit the like button to show your presence, then subscribe so you won't miss what happens next. The hospital buzzed with a quiet urgency. Nurses moved swiftly but gently, prepping IVs and surgical charts. The air smelled of disinfectant and sterilized metal. Camila sat beside Jace's bed, holding his small hand in both of hers. His skin was warm, his lashes fluttering as he blinked up at her. "Are you scared, Mommy?" he asked softly. She smiled through the tightness in her throat. "Not one bit. You're the bravest boy I know." He nodded solemnly. "Daddy said we're a team now, that I'm getting a part of him today." Her lips trembled. "That's right, baby. He's giving you something really special." There was a soft knock at the door. Dax stepped in, wearing hospital scrubs. His dark hair was tucked under a surgical cap, but his eyes were sharp, locked on his son. "Hey, champ," he said, approaching the bed. "You ready to kick this thing's butt?" Jace smiled weakly. "Are you nervous?" Dax crouched beside him. "A little, but mostly I'm excited. Because after today, we'll be connected forever." Jace squeezed his hand. "I like that." Camila stepped aside as the nurses came in with the gurneys. One for Dax, one for Jace. Her heart pounded as they hooked her son to portable monitors and began the prep. "Can I ride with you to the doors?" Jace asked. She smiled. "I wouldn't let you go any other way." They wheeled the beds side by side through the hallway. Camila walked between them, holding a hand on each stretcher, not letting go. Outside the OR, the nurse stopped. "This is as far as we go," she said gently. Camila leaned over Jace, kissing his forehead. "You'll be okay. I'll be right here when you wake up." He nodded, fighting sleep. Then she turned to Dax. He reached up, brushing his thumb over her knuckles. "We've got this." She bent down and pressed her lips to his forehead. "Thank you." "No," he murmured. "Thank you for calling me, for letting me be his father." The doors opened, and they disappeared behind them. Camila stood frozen, her hands now empty. But her heart was fuller than it had been in years. Camila sat curled in one of the waiting room chairs, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Time had lost all meaning. Each second dragged like it was being pulled through mud. The surgeon had said the procedure would take hours. They had prepped Jace and Dax at the same time, simultaneous surgeries in neighboring operating rooms. The idea of them both under anesthesia at once made her chest ache. She watched the hands on the clock crawl. Tick, tick, tick. Nurses moved in and out. Someone offered her water. She didn't take it. She prayed silently, gripping the hem of her sweater like a lifeline. Memories flickered, Jace in his superhero pajamas, spinning in circles until he fell over laughing. His first lost tooth. His obsession with blue raspberry ice cream. And Dax, the way he looked at her in the suite 2 nights ago, the way he whispered her name like it still meant everything. She shook the thought away, one thing at a time. First, her son needed to survive this. Then she'd deal with the storm inside her. A nurse appeared at the far end of the hall. Camila bolted to her feet. "Ms. Rios," the woman said, calm but purposeful. "Dr. Collins is ready to speak with you." She followed her through a maze of corridors, her heart slamming against her ribs. When they reached the consultation room, Dr. Collins stood waiting. His surgical cap was off, and his eyes looked tired, but not grim. Camila didn't wait for pleasantries. "Please, just tell me." He gave a small, reassuring smile. Both procedures went smoothly. Dax's kidney took beautifully. Jace is in recovery. He'll be monitored closely for the next 72 hours, but so far, all signs are positive. Camila gasped, then crumbled into a chair, head in her hands, sobbing. "They're okay?" she asked through tears. "They're okay," he confirmed. She didn't know how long she cried, only that she hadn't released that kind of breath in years. The weight that had sat on her chest for weeks lifted. She stood shakily. "Can I see them?" "One at a time," he said. "We'll start with Dax. He's already asking for you." Camila followed the nurse, tears still slipping down her cheeks. When she stepped into the recovery room, she saw him, pale, groggy, but smiling. "You did it," she whispered. His voice was hoarse. "No, we did." The beeping in the recovery room was steady, almost soothing. Camila eased herself into the chair beside Dax's bed. His eyes were half-lidded, the anesthesia still lingering in his system, but the corners of his mouth curled upward the moment she took his hand. "You're here," he murmured. She nodded, squeezing his fingers gently. "I'm not going anywhere." He looked worn, more pale than usual, lips dry, IVs tucked into both arms. But his expression was peaceful. "Jace?" he asked, voice raspy. "He's still under." "But stable," she said. "They said the transplant looks good. Everything's functioning. It's early, but it's hopeful." A soft breath of relief slipped from his lips. "I've never felt this kind of fear," he said. "Not in a boardroom, not with investors, nothing even close." Camila looked down at their hands. "Now you know what it's like to be a parent." Dax gave a faint smile. "It's terrifying." "It's worth it," she replied. He turned his head toward her. "Do you think he'll ever forgive me for missing everything?" "He already has," she said quietly. "The moment he held your hand, emotion flickered in his eyes." She stood, leaned over and kissed his forehead. "Rest. You need to heal. Jace is strong, but he's going to need his father around for a long time." He nodded, eyes fluttering shut again. Camila stayed there a moment longer, watching him breathe. Then the nurse stepped in. "Would you like to see your son now?" Camila nodded. In Jace's room, he looked so small in the bed, but his color had returned. His chest rose and fell steadily. A soft bandage peeked from under his hospital gown where the new kidney now lived. She sat beside him, brushing his hair back, kissing his forehead. "Hey, baby," she whispered. "You did it." His eyes didn't open, but his fingers moved, finding hers instinctively. Tears welled in her eyes again, not from fear this time, but from gratitude, for a second chance, for the family she never thought she'd have. Spring sunshine poured through the hospital windows, casting soft golden light across the white floors. It had been 4 days since the surgery. Jace's energy was slowly returning. He insisted on coloring dinosaurs and asking endless questions about where the kidney came from. Camila sat by his bed, gently massaging his feet as he flipped through a picture book. "Mommy, did Daddy really give me a piece of him?" She smiled. "Yes, sweetheart. That's how much he loves you." Jace looked thoughtful for a moment. So now I'm part dinosaur, part daddy? She laughed, real from the stomach laughter, and kissed the top of his curls. Exactly. Across the hall, Dax was healing too. He'd refused to take the VIP suite the hospital offered, opting instead for the regular recovery room to stay close to Jace. The nurses adored him. He cracked dry jokes and offered to tip anyone who could smuggle in real coffee. But it was the little things Camila noticed most, like how he limped down the hallway just to peek into Jace's room at night, how he memorized his medication schedule, how he quietly ordered a set of books on pediatric recovery and read them cover to cover. Every morning, he brought her coffee. Not just any coffee, her order. 2 pumps vanilla, 1 sugar, oat milk. She hadn't told him. He remembered. And every time he left a note tucked under the cup holder. Still your favorite pain in the ass. Tell Jace he gets his stubbornness from me. Today's mission, earn 1 real smile from you. Camilla didn't know what to make of it. Was this real? Or temporary kindness fueled by guilt? But as she watched him help Jace learn how to sit up again, his large hand steadying their son's back, she felt something shift. This wasn't a man playing hero. This was a man learning how to be a father. And maybe something more. Camila found the first letter tucked into the fold of a hospital blanket. It was scribbled on plain notepad paper, folded twice, and sealed with a coffee stain. For when I'm not brave enough to say it out loud, it read on the outside. She hesitated, heart pounding, then opened it. Camila, you don't have to read this. But I hope you do. You were always the strongest person in any room, even when you were barely holding it together. I see now what I didn't back then. You didn't need saving. You just needed someone who wouldn't leave when things got real. I'm sorry I wasn't that man before, but I want to be now. For Jace. For you. If you ever find space for me again, I'll still be standing right where you left me. Dax. She read it twice, maybe 3 times, and still, she folded it and slipped it into her purse like something precious. From that day on, the notes kept appearing, sometimes stuck under Jace's juice box, sometimes slid behind the morning newspaper, once taped to the back of the bathroom mirror with her favorite shade of lipstick sitting beside it, one he used to tease her about for being dangerously distracting. Each note was simple, a memory, a confession, a piece of his heart she didn't know he'd held on to. And it wasn't just the letters. It was how he made their son laugh, even when Jace was pale and tired. How he learned to braid hair badly because Jace wanted to surprise her with a salon day. How he never missed a nurse check-in, never complained, never made it about him. Camila started to see him not as the man who hurt her, but as the man who stayed, quietly, consistently. She caught herself watching him one night as he helped Jace brush his teeth. And when he turned and smiled at her, with toothbrush foam smeared across his cheek, she felt something inside her shift. Not a crack, a soft opening. Like maybe, just maybe. She was ready to feel again. Rain tapped gently against the windows, a steady rhythm that echoed the quiet beating in Camila's chest. Jace had finally drifted into sleep after a bedtime story and a round of whispered jokes with his father. His monitors pulsed steadily. The room was peaceful. Camila stepped into the kitchenette down the hall to pour herself some tea. The hallway light glowed soft and golden, reflecting off the linoleum floor. Dax stood at the counter, shirtless, a gauze patch still taped over his side where the incision was healing. His back was to her, but the moment he heard her footsteps, he turned slowly. Their eyes locked. Camila swallowed. You should be resting. So should you. His voice was rough, deeper than usual. She took a step forward, then another. When she was close enough to see the stubble along his jaw and the faint sheen of heat at his collarbone, she reached out, brushing her fingers lightly along the fresh scar. He flinched, not from pain, but from the electricity. You gave him a part of yourself, she whispered. He nodded. And I'd do it again. Her hand flattened against his chest. He caught her wrist, not forcefully, just enough to feel her pulse. Camila, he said softly, voice barely above breath. Tell me not to if you want me to stop. She didn't. Instead, she rose on her toes and kissed him. This time wasn't hurried or furious. It was slow, burning. His hands slid up her sides, pushing her sweater off her shoulders as their mouths deepened. Her fingers fumbled at the waistband of his lounge pants. His lips traced her jaw, her neck, the hollow of her throat. He lifted her onto the countertop effortlessly, standing between her knees, eyes dark with need. Camila pulled his face to hers, panting softly. "We shouldn't be doing this here." "Then tell me to stop," he murmured, mouth against her ear. She didn't. He kissed down her collarbone, peeling her tank top aside to taste her skin. When he sank into her, it was deep and slow, deliberate. She wrapped her legs around him, stifling a moan against his shoulder, hands clutching his back. Every movement was a confession, every breath a surrender. No more walls, no more doubt, just two bodies, finally in sync with hearts that had waited too long. When it ended, he held her there, still inside her, still breathing her in. "Camila," he said, voice cracked with emotion, "let me love you the right way this time." She didn't answer, but she kissed him like she meant forever. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving dew on the hospital garden just outside the window. Camila stood on the small balcony off the family suite, wrapped in a thin cardigan, coffee in hand. She wasn't sure how long she'd been watching the sunrise, but she felt him before she heard him. Dax stepped behind her, fresh from a shower, his shirt unbuttoned and clinging to him. The scar on his side peeked through the cotton, still healing, still tender. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "Too much on my mind." "Me too." Silence lingered between them, gentle but loaded. Then Dax spoke. "I need to tell you something." No filters, no defenses. Camila turned slightly. "Go ahead." He took a breath. "After you left all those years ago, I buried myself in work, deals, startups. I told myself I didn't need love, that it was a distraction." Her eyes narrowed slightly. "But it wasn't," he said quickly. "You weren't. You were the one thing that made the rest of it mean something." He stepped closer, his hand brushing hers. "I kept a photo of us. From Paris. You were laughing, mid-bite, probably teasing me about my terrible French. I kept it in my office drawer, hidden under contract folders." Her lips parted, surprised. "I'd take it out when everything felt like noise," he continued. "And I'd ask myself, how did I lose her? What the hell did I do wrong?" Camila looked down. "I think we both got lost. You in ambition, me in fear." He nodded. "You had every reason to run. But I never stopped loving you." She met his eyes, soft but guarded. "Love's not always enough, Dax." "I know," he said. "That's why I'm not asking you for promises. I just want a chance to show up every day, to be someone Jace can look up to, someone you can trust." He cupped her cheek, thumb brushing her skin. "Let me rebuild what I broke, piece by piece. No shortcuts, no apologies without actions." Camila leaned into his palm, the ache in her chest slowly softening. "You're really not the same man," she whispered. He gave her a crooked smile. "No, but I'm finally the man I always wanted to be." And this time, when she kissed him, it wasn't about the past. It was about the future. The following week brought quiet transformation. Jace was discharged, bright-eyed and chatty, asking every nurse if they had dinosaur-shaped balloons. Dax moved into Camila's guest room, temporarily, he said, but the toothbrush he left on her bathroom sink suggested otherwise. Evenings became their new rhythm. One night, as rain pattered lightly outside, Camila stood at the stove making grilled cheese, Jace's request. Dax hovered nearby, slicing apples like it required strategic precision. "You know," he said, "I used to burn toast in college, every single time." Camila smiled over her shoulder. "Why doesn't that surprise me?" He leaned against the counter, arms folded. "I didn't know it could feel like this. The quiet, the warmth." She glanced at him. "Like a life?" He nodded. "A real one." After Jace was tucked in, demanding 3 bedtime stories and 1 bad joke, Camila walked back into the kitchen to find Dax washing dishes. Shirt damp, hair slightly messy, hands submerged in soapy water. It was ordinary and deeply intimate. When he dried his hands and turned to her, there was something unspoken in the space between them. She stepped forward, slowly. "No grand speeches tonight?" she teased. "No," he said, eyes steady. "Just this." He kissed her softly. She responded, arms slipping around his waist, head resting against his shoulder. For the first time, there was no urgency, no hunger to prove anything, just safety. Later, they lay on the couch, legs intertwined, the TV murmuring in the background. Camila traced the lines of his chest absent-mindedly, head on his arm. "I used to think love had to hurt, that it had to burn to be real." Dax turned to face her. What do you think now? That it should feel like this? He reached for her hand. Camila, if we do this, it has to be all in. No disappearing, no hiding. I'm not the woman I was back then, she said. I've grown. I've survived. And I see all of that, he said. And I love all of it. She blinked, caught off guard. I love you, he repeated, calm and sure. Not the idea of you, not the memory of what we were. You, now. This version. Her throat tightened. I never thought I'd trust you again, she whispered. But I do. He smiled. Then let's build something new. No ghosts, no shadows, just us. Camila leaned in, kissed him slow. And in that moment she knew, this time, they weren't falling. They were choosing. Together. The backyard was quiet, lit by a string of soft fairy lights. Dax had hung himself, crookedly, but with intention. Camila stepped outside, barefoot in her robe, the air still warm from the late spring evening. Jace had finally gone to bed after insisting on reading his new dinosaur encyclopedia to both of them cover to cover, twice. She found Dax standing in the middle of the yard, hands in his pockets, eyes on the stars. Nice lights, she teased gently. He turned, smiling. I was aiming for magical, settled somewhere between crooked and charming. She stepped toward him. It's perfect. He exhaled slowly. You know, for a long time I thought success was measured by what you could build. The next big thing, another company, another headline. She watched him closely. But it's not about building empires, he continued. It's about building something that lasts, something that matters. From his pocket he pulled out a small velvet box. Camila froze. He opened it. Inside was a simple, elegant ring. Platinum band, no flash, just timeless. Camila Rios, he said, his voice shaking slightly. I don't want a perfect story. We already missed that. I want a real one, with all the chaos, the healing, the laughter, and the late-night grilled cheese sandwiches. She stared at him, eyes wide, heart thundering. I love you, he said, and I love our son, and this life we're piecing together. I want to wake up every day with you next to me, not just because we share a child, but because you're the one I've been searching for, even when I didn't know it. He dropped to one knee. Will you marry me? Camila didn't speak. She stepped forward, eyes glossy with tears, and launched herself into his arms. He caught her with a laugh, the ring box dropping softly onto the grass. Their kiss was slow, deep, filled with every word neither of them could say. And in that embrace, under crooked lights and open sky, she answered him without ever needing to speak. Camila didn't remember how long she clung to him, arms tight around his neck, heart pounding like thunder in her chest. When she finally pulled back, she looked into his eyes. You really mean it? No running, no shutting down. I'm already home, Dax said, brushing his thumb over her cheek. I'm not going anywhere. She kissed him again, slower this time. He reached down, retrieved the ring box from the grass, opened it, and slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Her breath caught. I didn't think I'd ever wear one again, she whispered. Not after everything. He held her hand in his, lifting it gently to his lips. It's not just a ring, Camila. It's a promise that I'm choosing you, on the ordinary days, the hard days, the ones when you're mad at me for stealing the covers. She smiled. And the ones where Jace spills orange juice on your white shirt 5 minutes before a meeting? Especially those, he said with a grin. They swayed there for a while beneath the lights, no music but the rhythm of each other's breath. Then the sliding door creaked open behind them. A small voice called out, Mom? Dad? They turned. Jay stood in his dinosaur pajamas, hair messy, rubbing one eye. What are you doing? Camila crouched down, arms open. We're celebrating. He patted over and climbed into her lap, eyes curious. Why? Dax knelt beside them. Because I just asked your mom to marry me. Jace blinked. Like, forever? Camila smiled. Exactly. He looked between them. Can I be the best man? Dax ruffled his curls. You're already the best everything. Jace grinned. Cool. Can we have cake now? Camila laughed. Yes, baby. Tomorrow. All the cake you want? She looked at Dax, who was already watching her like she hung the stars. And for the first time in years, she felt seen, whole, chosen. The sun began its slow descent over the Malibu hills, casting a warm amber glow over the vineyard terrace where close friends and family gathered in soft murmurs of joy. Camila stood beneath a delicate floral arch, breeze gently lifting the hem of her ivory silk gown. Her eyes searched the crowd until they landed on the one face that mattered. Jace, dressed in a tiny tuxedo with a lime green dinosaur pin on his lapel. His idea, of course. He beamed with pride. His hand clutched the velvet ring box tightly, shoulders square, expression serious. When the music shifted, the crowd rose. Dax stepped forward from the far end of the aisle, dressed in a classic black suit, his steps slow but confident. Every inch of him radiated calm joy, but when he looked at Camila, his composure cracked just a little. His eyes softened, mouth parted in awe. She felt the same. It wasn't the dress, or the vineyard, or the gold-trimmed chairs. It was him. It was them. A journey once broken, now whole. As Dax reached the altar, Camila took his hands in hers, barely aware of the officiant beginning the ceremony. They didn't hear much of it, just pieces. Promises, vows, laughter when Jace loudly whispered, "Is it time for the rings now?" halfway through. When the moment came, Dax crouched to Jace's level. "You ready, little man?" Jace nodded, holding out the box with both hands. "Careful. It's breakable." The rings were simple, just like their love now, no performance, just truth. "I do," Dax said first, clear and sure. Camila followed, her voice trembling with emotion. "I do." And then, they kissed. It wasn't a spectacle. It wasn't posed. It was a seal on a chapter that had once seemed impossible. Jace clapped so hard he nearly dropped the velvet box. "Can I call you husband and wife now?" The crowd laughed. Camila nodded, eyes glassy. "Yes, baby. Now and forever." The honeymoon suite overlooked the Pacific, floor-to-ceiling windows bathing the room in moonlight, waves crashing gently below. Camila stood barefoot near the balcony doors, her wedding gown now replaced by a soft satin robe. Hair loose, lips still tinted from champagne and kisses. Dax closed the door behind him, undoing the top button of his shirt as he walked toward her. "You've never looked more beautiful," he murmured. She turned to face him. "You say that like it's a surprise." He chuckled. "I've said it before, but tonight it feels different." "Because it is," she said, stepping forward. "We're not who we were." "No," he agreed, sliding his arms around her waist. "We're better." Their lips met, slow and deep. No more doubt. No more hesitation. Dax slipped the robe from her shoulders, letting it fall to the floor in a whisper. He took a moment, just to look. No rush. No hunger. Just reverence. Camila reached for his shirt, unfastening each button slowly. "I want to remember this," she whispered. "You will," he said, guiding her to the bed. They moved together like a dance, skin against skin, soft moans echoing against the quiet of the room. He kissed her shoulders, her collarbone, the inside of her wrist. She traced every scar on his chest, one fresh, a reminder of what they'd overcome. When he entered her, it was tender, purposeful. They didn't speak, only touched, only breathed. Her nails curled into his back, his fingers laced with hers above her head. They made love as husband and wife, slow and unbroken, like they had all night in the world. Afterward, tangled in sheets and steady heartbeats, Camila lay with her cheek on his chest. "I never thought I'd get this," she whispered. "You didn't get it," he said softly. "You fought for it, you built it, you chose it." She smiled, pressing a kiss to his shoulder. "So did you." Outside, the ocean kept its rhythm. Inside, their world was quiet. Complete. The morning light spilled across the nursery walls, painting soft gold across plush toys and stacked storybooks. Camila stood in the doorway, arms crossed loosely over her chest, watching. Jace lay curled in bed, blanket half-tossed, clutching his stuffed triceratops. His chest rose and fell in a deep, peaceful rhythm. A soft laugh rose behind her. Dax wrapped his arms around her waist from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "He's finally sleeping in past 7. That alone deserves a celebration." She leaned back into him. "He's healing. That's what matters." They stood there in silence, watching their son breathe. Camila exhaled slowly. "There were nights I thought I'd lose him, that I'd never get to see him like this, whole, safe." Dax pressed a kiss behind her ear. "You saved him." She turned to face him, fingers trailing down his chest. "No, we did." He nodded. And now we get to live what we almost missed. Later in the kitchen, Jace came patting in, bedhead wild, voice groggy. Did you guys really get married yesterday? Camila poured his juice. We did. Jace grinned. Can we eat cake every day now? Dax ruffled his hair. Let's start with waffles and negotiate from there. They laughed, the sound echoing in the sunlight. A new beginning. Not perfect, not scripted, just real. Camila looked at her son, then at the man who never stopped choosing them. And for the first time in years, the word came easily. Home. If this story moved you, if you believe in redemption and in the kind of love that fights through heartbreak to find its way back home, then don't let this moment end here. Please, take a second right now to hit that like button. It helps the story reach more hearts who need to hear it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next emotional journey we share. And we want to hear from you. Would you forgive someone who broke your heart? If it meant saving the life of your child? Drop your answer in the comments. We read every single one. If you believe love is worth fighting for, comment love deserves a second chance. And most importantly, share this video with someone who needs a reminder that healing is real, and that sometimes the people we least expect become the ones who stay. This is Love and Twilights, where stories aren't just told, they're felt. Until next time, keep loving, keep hoping, and keep watching.